Here we are, macking on plantain chips.
Oh
you might hear some crunching. This is a non-sponsored advertisement for Doritos and Behind the Bastards. No, do you know that trope on that show?
I have not. I have not listened to enough of it to
not.
identify their tropes.
Okay, well, we're eating plantain chips from Porto's, which is an amazing LA bakery.
That's what the ad should be for.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It is.
Yeah.
But also Doritos, Cool Ranch, rope in the flavor. This is 1Upsmanship, the ship where we one up. That's a joke for frame rate fans. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Swain.
I'm the other one, Adam Ganzer with chips in his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, just dust, the plantain crumbs out of your beard. And
If
we'll
I
be
even
good to
can.
go.
They might grow whole trees in here now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's rich
Wait,
soil.
is that happen? Oh, they do have seeds in the center. That's what the little black dots are in a banana, right?
Yeah. Your beard gets long enough, you can't control what's in there.
You learn a lot about fruit on this show.
Much more than you anticipated.
But today we're also going to be talking about Telltale's The Walking Dead. Only Chapter 1. Chapter Uno. Pause. All right, you're going to hear a weird edit there because we washed our hands and shook the plantain chip pieces from our beards.
Yes.
And cleaned ourselves up. But as I was saying, we are getting around to discussing a video game. And this session, I wanted to, right up top, thank Paul Zarowski, Super Bean, Super Patron, Super Person, probably.
Sure.
For all I know.
I'll grant him that.
The one data point I have on Paul. For patronizing us at a level commensurate with your ability to listen to an episode about this game.
That's great.
Yeah, which, again, is just Chapter 1, of which there are 4, of Telltale's The Walking Dead adaptation of the comic book, popular TV show of the same name.
This was also just a good thing to suggest. We've been talking about doing a Telltale game since the beginning of the show and just has never gotten around to the right one.
Since before the company even collapsed,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, we were talking about it back then too. So I'm glad that we've been incentivized to do it.
And they dissolved because all the tales had been told, right? They determined all tales had been told, and there was no need.
That's it.
Yeah.
They were working on a reboot of a Paul Bunyan thing, and they were like, we did it already, man.
Having accomplished everything I wanted to as president, I had no need for a second term.
How many different ways can you push triangle to look at Babe the Blue Ox? They ran out of them.
Well, we'll definitely get into that.
Yeah.
Because how many times can you pull right trigger to shoot some fucking, you know what I mean? Usually oppressed person trapped in a systemic thing of not their... Okay, so we better do a thing called speed run.
Yeah.
Pass our first checkpoint. Plantain chip, nom,
yeah,
nom.
that's right. Nom.
Those are
I wish we just
power-ups.
got recording sounds of us eating that garbage.
Have you seen Dragged Across Concrete yet?
No, I have not.
Lot to say about it, but the only thing I'll mention now is that there's like a 90-second shot of Vince Vaughn eating an egg salad on pumpernickel toast sandwich with a mic super close to his mouth.
Great.
It's
That
great.
sounds really good.
I don't know if everything about the movie's great, but that's for a different podcast. Whose turn is it to do the speed run?
I've kind of prepped for it now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Then by
if
all
you're ready.
means, jam your plug into that port number 1 and take it away.
Oh yeah. And The Walking Dead, the game, is what it was officially
Webster's
titled.
Dictionary defines The Walking Dead.
It's an adventure game. It's episodic. It was released in 5 installments.
Start the clock.
No, you're not doing that. we're redoing it, aren't we?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
Well, you got a bonus 5 seconds, which
Oh.
we now just wasted by talking over
Damn
it.
it.
The clock is running.
Damn it. It's an episodic adventure game that was released in 5 installments initially by Telltale, the company that got famous for effectively choose-your-own-adventure games. That's what they are. Choose-your-own-adventure, by the way, I found out is a trademarked brand. So these branching narrative games, that's what these are. They are largely... these are games that are largely... selecting different dialogue and relationship options and then watching cutscenes play with less robust activity than other third-person games of the same type would be. This one covers The Walking Dead. In it, you are playing as Lee, and who discovers probably the main character of the series, Clementine, very early, and like that relationship is the main substance of the game. It was released in 2012. It has become probably the trademark of this Telltale company, which sadly failed a few years ago. And we can talk about whether it may or may not be the best of its genre, which you might call point and click. It's pretty close to point and click. That's it for me.
Stopping the clock and
I was just playing Wolfenstein 2, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So that's another game I think we might want to talk about.
Shooting
Yeah, because they have some really bad German in it. Like, yeah.
Are there sound clips in the original? Oh, you're talking
about
the
the
new
new
ones.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, the new one, yeah.
My mind went back to Scarab of Ra level graphics. Deep cut.
Very deep
Played
cut.
that on an Apple IIe.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good synopsis. You sounded like you hate this game, tone of voice wise. Is that accurate?
No, it's not accurate.
Okay.
I'll give you my opinion later in
All
the
right.
rant section.
Well, cram some plantain chips down your goddamn throat because we
Pack
have to
your
pass
face hole with Portos.
another checkpoint. Another Find Porto's location, here to serve you in the greater Los Angeles area. Sponsor us. So as player 2, since you got the speed run, I will now take the, what do we call them? Rants. The rants. Okay. My rant is I played through chapters 1 and 2 and 3. I haven't played 4 yet, which came out more recently, but not so recently that that's a dumb excuse. I should have played it by now. It's funny how I think the two defining aspects of pop culture over my lifetime have been everyone's over zombie stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone constantly goes, but have you seen Black Summer though? Because I know it's like, I'm over zombie stuff, but it's really, this one is really.
This is the one.
Last of Us, Walking Dead. So I've stopped saying I'm over zombie stuff, and I understand some of the primordial connections that zombieism has to human nature, but I don't know what it is that's so persistent about the genre, and I've stopped questioning it.
Yeah.
There are good zombie things, and there continue to be, and it seems to be a genre that you can almost infinitely reinvent because it has been reinvented over and over. We had a great Last of Us episode, which is another great zombie game, and another thing those two had in common is I wept like a baby at the end. The first, and this game we should mention is not cel shaded strictly because I know what that means graphically,
It's
but
close though. It's inspired by that.
It's inspired by cel shading and designed to look as much like a comic book as possible.
Yeah.
And in some cases, Telltale was working with a minuscule budget, and I wouldn't even say the graphics are the best.
They're not.
And there's like clunky gameplay issues and stuff, but, and we'll get into this more, the focus was still on interactivity, but in it's very interesting, but that's all for the next section. I'll end my rant by saying whatever alchemy came together, I don't like The Walking Dead show. I even thought the comics sort of wore on after a while, and it might help that this is a shorter form story. But given the fact that there's nothing super innovative in terms of every zombie thing that happens in this, you've seen in other zombie things, it's still well executed enough that my hands were shaking at the end, and I was like choking back tears so I could read the fucking dialogue options before time ran out.
Yep.
Had to like wipe tears away and be like, oh. And I'll get into that more deeply because I do think, especially the ending of chapter 1, is executed with like more tact than most movies I see. That's all for me. Passing the torch to player 1.
Thank you. I want to definitely agree with your assessment that this is the best version of The Walking Dead. I agree. I've read the comic and I've watched 4 seasons of the show, I want to say, 3 or 4. I vastly preferred this game. Yeah. I vastly preferred all the seasons of this game to anything else in the Walking Dead zone. I think this is the best way to do zombie apocalypse I've seen so far. I don't hate zombie stuff. I think of it now like a genre like noir or western, or there's permutations. They're not all super different. There's like pretty much a set of tropes that we're going to explore. There will be cannibals. There will be civilizations.
You mean human cannibals?
Yes.
Non-zombie
There'll
cannibals.
be human cannibals. There will be a civilization that's based on everybody's welcome, but this one group that is the problem that will always fail. There will be fascism. There will be like you can't trust anybodyism, and then human spirit will triumph in little points here and there. That's all zombie things everywhere, and I don't hate that. It's fine, like that's okay. This was a nice tour of that process, in my opinion. It had my favorite relationship in any zombie thing so far. No, that's not true. It's my second favorite, but they're basically the same. My second, this is father-daughter.
Game on, but
the father-daughter dynamic.
Right, but I want to know what your first is that made you take it back.
Last of Us.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
That's basically the same.
And you're just talking in games?
Yeah, in games.
Because if I'm expanding to zombie fiction,
I can't think of a zombie
call.
fiction thing I like better offhand. But I didn't prep this.
Well, I have time to think while you finish your rant.
Sure.
So I might have.
I'm
one.
shooting from the hip with this, but offhand, like immediately, I'm like, this is probably my favorite relationship. I thought this was a really good story. I think the gameplay is acceptable. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's supposed to be good. I also can't figure out a way I think it should improve that much. So I'm like, hard for me to criticize it. The best thing about the gameplay, in my opinion, is that they decided to make everything on a timer. I think that's a great decision because a lot of problems I've had with point-and-click stuff in the past is that like you can kind of sit there and meander with your thoughts and kind of get stop paying attention. This game requires you to pay pretty close attention to it all the time, and therefore you're more immersed in it. And it's just a factor of everything is kind of on a timer. That's a good thing, I like this a lot. This is not my favorite Telltale game, though. My favorite is the Fables one. We can talk about that a little bit, too, because we may or may not cover that. That's it for now.
Start the clock. Stop the clock. Pass 3
Shortest entry
checkpoints.
ever on the clock.
Start and stop the clock another time. Start the clock from New Rules. Bill Maher's New Rules. Stop that clock. Checkpoint. Game on. I will put all those sound effects
Holy
in.
shit. Wow.
Unless you coughed over my hilarious bit.
I don't think I did.
Right.
I think the audience got to enjoy it. Yeah. So,
well, I will mention up top because I said I was thinking about it during your rant. It's not as moving, so I don't really like it as much. But Santa Clarita Diet, the Netflix show
I haven't
about,
seen that. Yeah.
just got canceled. No, I'm not saying it's good. I think it's mediocre. But in their outgoing press release, they said what we're most proud of is that before this, there was no such thing as a Zomcom. And I was like, fuck you, Shaun of the Dead, for God's sake.
What? Yeah.
And
That's
Shaun
the
of
Zomcom.
Yeah. So Shaun and, his friend, his zombie friend at the end who keeps in the shed.
Yeah.
Ed?
Nick
Frost,
yeah.
but I think his name's Ed in the movie.
I forget.
I bet a lot of people ship that zombie relationship.
I'll take it having not seen Santa Clarita Diet just because of what an ignorant reference that was.
Or it seemed so vain to claim in this post-zombie era where zombies been permutated in every possible.
At the very least, there was that romance one, right? Like where the warm bodies,
Pride and Prejudice,
warm
and zombies,
That's
warm
another
bodies.
comment.
Yeah.
So this guy's just wrong.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
All right. Well, now that we've debunked that,
yeah. Now we can get back to the top.
the one you were thinking of is Wolf Among Us, another
God, love
adaptation of a great comic series. And then I want to point out they also released
Batman.
Yes.
Tales from the Borderlands.
Yes.
Game of
You're
Thrones.
not going to say the one I'm thinking of, but this is good to fill in the roster. Minecraft Story Mode.
Oh, yeah.
And these were all very much like The Walking Dead functionally.
Yeah, they're all the same.
However,
basically.
they also released Sam and Max.
Oh.
New updated 3D versions of Sam and Max with the original voice actors,
Okay.
which is so nostalgic.
Okay.
Sam and Max Hit the Road is a cult classic of point and click adventure games. A lot of people argue probably still the most if you have to go back and play all those games, still probably the most engaging and interesting.
I've watched you play about an hour and a half of that game.
Of that,
I'm not that specific one, but of a Sam and Max. I know I've watched you play it.
Oh, the Telltale, the new ones, because I was fucking around with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm getting at is those are stayed point and click, true point and click, no time limit. And even though it's a comedy, so I understand time, feeling a ticking clock is less of a start the clock,
Right.
stop the clock, less of a constraint because it's not horror. You're not trying to feel tense. And I agree
Right.
with you. It works very well.
Really well here.
Especially when in Walking Dead you're trying to think of the right thing to say. It doesn't give you the opportunity that every other choose your own dialogue game gives you, where you go, well, I've decoded the way this scriptwriter thinks.
Yes.
This will make them mad at me. This will make them forgive me.
Right.
This will probably give me a point on both ends of the karmic spectrum.
Right.
It ticks down so quickly that you end up kind of going with your gut more.
Yep.
Well, what would I say? And that makes for a more interesting experience.
It gives you exactly the thing that we all want from zombie stuff, which
Yes.
is, what would it be like if it was me?
Right.
That's what we all want, and it basically created that for us.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, and I promise I'll only talk about Walking Dead now, but I would never forgive myself that I didn't take this opportunity to tell, all our listeners that Sam and Max is also based on a comic. The entire collected works is a slim volume. You can read it in one day, and it's one of the fucking masterpieces of our time.
I'm going to have to check it out.
The artwork and the dialogue, it's a lot raunchier than the game. Steve Purcell is the artist and writer, and when you see the comics, you'll understand why he did so few, because the level of detail in the artwork is like unparalleled.
Yeah, he just couldn't squeeze out that
and
many
it's
of them.
fucking hilarious. It's such a quick read. Everyone reads Sam and Max Freelance Police, the collected works.
Okay.
So I appreciate Telltale as a comics fan, and as a Fables is also phenomenal.
Yes.
As a fan of graphic novels, not superhero comics. So to me, it was like a godsend that they started adapting Walking Dead, Sam and Max. It was really cool. And that went through to the core ethos of the company, because the other thing they're really notable for was turning around games, and this may be why the gameplay is clunky, incredibly quickly or in huge batches. So like you said, even though Chapter 1 is one of 4, Chapter 1 was released, I believe, every 2 months in 5 parts. So they wanted...
It's episodic.
And Sam and Max, similarly, had 5 episodes before it stopped making enough money, and they canceled it, that would come out monthly. Mm-hmm. So it felt very much like collecting issues of comics or waiting for a TV show you like. Admittedly, a month is still long. But the other one that gives me hope for this is the Spider-Man DLCs. They released in quick succession, and they were really short.
Okay.
And I want to give props to Telltale, because I want more of that. I want a subscription to a game where an hour of it comes out every week.
I think it's a really cool model.
Yeah.
I suspect that it doesn't work. I mean, because
Financially.
it didn't. How expensive could it be
But
for these games? Like, by contrast to
it doesn't
almost any other property out there, they can't be that expensive, can they?
The writing, most of the weight is on the writing, and writing is cheap.
Cheaper.
And I don't mean less important. Obviously, we
No.
want to be writers, but comparatively cheap man hour to write infinite decision trees versus model all the new Scorpion in Mortal Kombat 11 and make him look right and do the mocap.
That's 100 people worked on that
they
guy.
buy a fucking studio and film mocap and shit.
Yeah.
So yes.
And yet, okay, so there's some branching narratives I want to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, and I appreciate this game being brought up.
So, okay, let me start back with, how do you feel about it visually? About Walking Dead and Telltale in general, but The Walking Dead.
I think it's one of their actually, I thought it was one of their weak points, and not because of the artwork and the work that went into it.
Yeah.
Although I will say that in places like when you're walking through the woods in Walking Dead and the ground is just a very rudimentary repeated tile,
right,
you feel like they ran out of time and money.
They don't have it.
Or they had to turn the game around so fast, whatever.
Sure.
But when you look at the characters, they obviously spent a lot of time modeling Lee and Clem, and they look good.
And Kenny.
And and we'll get into this story. Don't worry. We will talk about how we care emotionally about the plot. But I think the mechanics are so unique, and Telltale's legacy so interesting, especially given that it's gone now, that it's important to talk about these aspects. I no longer feel that way because I recently played Wolf Among Us. And Wolf Among Us...
That's my favorite of this.
Made me realize...
Visually.
It's hard for me to not make Walking Dead Chapter 1 my favorite because of the emotional level it got me to.
Correct.
But Wolf Among Us... In Walking Dead, I think a lot of the collision detection is the problem.
Yeah.
So the graphics will look weird because the outline is a separate plane from the color field, and
Yes.
it goes through a wall.
Sometimes.
In Wolf Among Us, none of that shit. It just seemed like they really nailed everything down for the Fable series.
Well, I also, if anybody's listening to this and hasn't actually played both of them, I think one good thing to distinguish between them is, they're definitely genre. They're different
do you like
genres.
fantasy or zombie? Yeah.
Well, I would say it's a noir story. Like, Wolf Among Us is a noir story.
Do you like noir? It's really, do you like noir or do you like thriller?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you like, episodic
Survival.
thriller? Yeah. And those create different sets of feelings.
Yes.
And this reminded me, I do like noir feelings better.
Oh, but both are
But
very
they're
well,
both very good, yes.
Both are very good. I like, because I am a depressive person, I like
The
art that
energy.
gets me there in
Yeah.
a cathartic way. It's weird. I think people who experience real grief a lot, or not even grief, but depression, you don't want to experience the real stuff, but it's cathartic to have a movie or game get you there.
Yeah.
It actually kind of alleviates it weirdly,
Yeah.
which is where the blues comes from.
Right.
But I also feel like in the same way, that's why I like Walking Dead better, because it made me cry. To me, things that make me cry seem important. But that doesn't detract from the fact that at the end of Wolf Among Us, I felt that satisfying case wrap-up feeling. So
A lot.
it achieved what it wanted to in that genre. I had way worse experiences with the Guardians of the Galaxy one, the Minecraft one, and it made me realize it is so dependent on the world. And of course,
And the writing.
they,
I thought
they
Tales-
know it's dependent on the writing. That's inherent and baked in what they're trying to do. But at the same time, when you do that and then try to recoup your money for these great games by licensing with Marvel and Minecraft, I'm sorry. And of course, it could theoretically be done. But what a bill to foot to be like, make me care about the plot of Minecraft, though.
And yet, I would argue
You can't.
that's harder.
It's boring as fuck.
But I would argue that that's what The Walking Dead as a Telltale game did. Is
Yes.
like it carved out, like, yes, we can take a huge franchise with a given value and carve out our own
Oh, you're right. Walking Dead is
better version of it.
You're
that
right. I
They
just
did
think-
that. It was like, oh shit, okay.
But
well,
it leans on the. So, for example, like you said, there's a people are cannibals plot. There's a.
yes, it's very tropey.
We're living on an unconventional mode of transportation for safety
Right.
plot. There's a fascist society where no weakness is, and
Yes.
aren't they worse than the zombies in some ways? I mean, if you think about it,
Right.
plot. So all of that is from the rich history of the genre, I would argue, whereas Minecraft has no genre tropes to lean back on. And similarly, or
Yeah, what
I
do
don't
they
know,
do? Like,
Guardians of the Galaxy, I guess, could have been good, and it just wasn't. I just also found that one really mind-numbingly boring.
I would argue that, like,
I want Jay
every
Pinkerton
time,
to write one of these
sure
fucking things. Yeah.
Well, I wish every time they pick something that's like a slightly more comic, like, space for them to make a game, they aren't as good. Like, everybody like was very impressed, I'm putting that in quotes, with the Tales from the Borderland one. I played that one. I thought, this is fine. Borderlands is better it's better in its other form. Like, I didn't think that the Telltale version of Borderlands added anything to
we'll
it.
do a Borderlands episode, but I
Yeah.
would also argue that the humor in Borderlands is trying way too hard and is the main like downside to the game for me.
That's subjective, but
It
I'm
is
with you on
subjective,
that.
and I just think it's not necessarily vain to say like I have it, or you gain experience in a field you work in.
Sure.
And it is true that if you write enough jokes and imbibe enough jokes and edit enough scripts with other jokes, I don't know. There's something in video game humor that smacks of. I get the same, like, I like NPR shows, but anytime anyone on NPR tries a joke in the middle of their
It's
thing,
painful.
I fucking cringe.
Yeah.
I feel that way when Handsome Jack says he has a diamond butt pony. I'm like, what'd you Mad Libs things that you think kids will find funny, you fucking tool? Get off the stage.
You fucking butt pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that it doesn't work on the Excel spreadsheet of good jokes
However,
anymore.
Sam and Max, the humor works for me. The reason I brought it up is A, because of the issue release thing, which I think is an important thing Telltale brought to the table, but also, yeah, I couldn't get through those because without the time limit, it took me back to the old days of point and click where I would have to call a 900 number on the phone and go through a tree to be like, are you stuck in the desert?
Right.
Press 2. Or are you stuck in do you have the bucket?
Yeah.
Press 3. And I'd finally go, oh, you got to put the fucking gum on the wig on his pillow? Oh, fuck this game. And when it's like I've lost my tolerance for that.
Right.
And I did want to
Definitely, as an
ask,
adult, I don't want to do that.
I think it's an important thing to bring up because it's hard to get, like, one day I will get you to discuss Grim Fandango or
Sure.
Day of the Tentacle. But for now, I want to bring up point and click in general because Telltale.
But wait. I want to bring that up later because I want
Later? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get a few like
Do you
things about
think
this game done.
Is that is that a waste of this episode?
No, it's not.
Because I feel that Telltale in a way carried on the point and click legacy, even though it technically that's not what it is.
I agree. I just don't want to only be bird's eye view on this game.
All right.
I want to do in the weeds a little bit if we can.
Please take me down
If
that
that's
primrose
okay.
path. Start the clock. Stop the clock.
I like this stupid fucking bit. This is my favorite one you've done in a while.
It's going to require a lot of editing.
Well, you laid this path for yourself,
true.
my friend. Okay, so really quick, why do we accept in this game pretty rudimentary animation and feel emotionally about it, whereas it takes vastly more complicated and talented people to make, say, The Last of Us work? Like, why are those two things emotionally? Why do they both work?
I think The Last of Us would have worked if I read the script, though.
Like, it might just be the writing.
I
think
think
the
it's the
performances
writing.
really matter in Last of Us.
I guess I mean I like novels and I get a lot
Sure.
out of reading.
Sure. Me too.
But also an audiobook. Yeah, same thing. I think an audiobook of The Last of Us would get me.
So, are you saying the performance is ultimately not that important, or
No,
for you not that
I'm
important?
I'm saying that the ability to read a novel and imagine everything and still be moved
Yeah.
doesn't negate the value of an actor's vocal performance also being a
No.
different kind of presentational art. And I think, like with film, there's no way to say what factor's the deciding factor, right? Like, is it the writing or the directing or the art direction of the Wes Anderson movie that made you like that one? In the same way, The Last of Us, well, we should talk about The Walking Dead, but...
No, but these came out within a year of each other.
Oh, sure. And I would argue The Walking Dead also features... the main actors are all strong, but some weaker vocal performances than The Last of Us.
But, yes, definitely.
Right.
Last of Us is top tier in terms of acting
I got
in a video game.
just as emotional about The Walking
Right.
Dead.
Why?
Well, the reason I bring up... But I also get that emotional when I read the script for the play Pillow Man by Martin McDonagh. So, like... I think it's because your imagination can fill in the gaps all the way down to you can scan your eyes across arbitrary symbols in a string
Sure.
and cry. So, of course, a flip book could make you cry if it was well done enough. Therefore, a rudimentary video game could make you cry, of course.
But so, like, the only reason I'm nitpicking what you're saying, The Walking Dead, your imagination is filling in a lot less than it would for a novel. And
just describing the reading is different than watching
But
something.
Walking Dead isn't reading. It's very much a movie. Like you're playing a movie.
Yeah.
But it's like a kind of rudimentarily rendered movie.
Well,
and why does it still work?
as long as we're quibbling.
I
quibble with you twice now saying that it's mostly dialogue trees. I would say it's about 50% point and click puzzle solving as well.
There's no real robust puzzles here, though. Right?
No, like clearing the 5 zombies out of the motor lodge where you have to use something to recover a spark plug, then realize a spark plug can silently break a car window so you can get the toolbox. So you can de-jack the car so it silently crushes the zombie's head so you can sneak around the other side. That's
a lot.
Point and click puzzle.
It is.
Classic.
And I'm not disputing that. That's the most complicated by a mile this game gets. It's not very complicated.
I find that they do find very innovative ways throughout, and in Wolf Among Us as well. Well, Wolf Among Us...
I thought that was better on the
took
puzzle
it to the
front.
next level because they have fight scenes.
Yes.
And the fight scenes are...
rewarding.
Way more robust and complicated, and you feel like you did the fight.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But back to this game. Like I would argue the train thing, which is mainly going back and forth, looking at a panel that has the directions and then doing them.
Right.
Yeah.
It's as a puzzle.
And the shooting zombies in the head is more of just a beat the timer game.
I felt like those things always felt like filler to create a new dialogue system.
Sure.
Like,
But
it's the same as LA Noire, where it's like I didn't really like the parts of LA Noire that weren't the interrogations that much.
Talking is the most rewarding and important, and also
Meaningful thing.
I would say that the story's built around in the same way that Fallout or Knights of the Old Republic has. There's an underlying, it's not as explicit because you don't have a karma gauge.
Right.
But there's the system of, you're not interested. So in Wolf Among Us, you're interested in winning the fight to survive / picking up enough clues to solve the case.
You know what?
In Walking Dead, you're much more interested in what are the emotional, social,
right,
community,
very much so,
ramifications of each decision.
Which is the zombie apocalypse thing.
It's a different brain space, yeah. Like it's any apocalypse.
Right.
Fallout invites you to have those
Correct.
thoughts. Oh, if I say the wrong dialogue tree here, is this settlement going to get wiped out and I won't have to be able to trade here anymore? You're thinking about, if I give the food to Larry, does that make what's her name hate me?
Is she pissed?
Is Larry gonna not be racist anymore if I give him all 3 foods?
Spoiler, no.
Should I kill Kenny or kill him later or
kill him twice? Like what's the plan on Kenny?
Actually, I'm being facetious. I like Kenny, but I know you said you don't
like Kenny.
I think, well, I like him as a character.
Me too.
Because, and it doesn't take a lot, you guys. Like, as long as you can write a character that has one thing that seems counter to the rest of their overriding character, and they explain it somehow through their psychological makeup, one layer. Like, it's the difference between painting a color field and adding shading.
Yeah.
People will give you awards for writing well-rounded characters. Yeah. And so it's like, when I see a character that's truly one-dimensional, it just seems like you didn't give a shit. So I appreciate,
especially in a game like this,
that Kenny,
yeah,
I like him and dislike him exactly 50% both ways, like exactly neutral. But I'm not neutral. Duck. I hated him, Duck. And I deeply empathize with him.
Yeah. So again, maybe I just need to make a point I wanted to make. I think that there's like a magic sort of tessellation of elements in this game that like all of them feel like they shouldn't work together in some ways. Here's what I mean. Like, so the animation, not so great. It's fine. It's not good, though, especially for the time.
Walking around is clunky.
The gameplay is not that great. It's a property that's very saturated.
Somewhat glitchy. I had scenes where Doug and I are supposed to be leaning down the pharmacy cage talking, and Lee is still standing, so he's just whispering into my crotch. And we can't go out there, man.
Even though we want to go in there, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like subsequent versions of this game, like most recent chapters, are much better rendered. But for this first one, it's clearly like this was a big experiment, and it's so crazy how well it all works.
They might have built the engine for that game, for all we know.
I don't know the answer to that. I just find it, especially because I went back and played it for a few hours this morning. I was like, man, it's weird how this all works. Because it doesn't feel like it should.
Yeah, Chapter 2 and 3 already look better, and Chapter 4 looks really good from the trailer.
Wolf Among Us
already looks way better, yeah.
Interesting.
But I also think fantasy stuff's easier to render because your imagination doesn't have realism to compare it to.
Yeah. This game brought a few just sort of observations about what is dumb about the zombie apocalypse, like right to the forefront.
Such as?
Okay, here's the first one. People's immediate assumption that thing is no longer human. Like the speed with which that happens is bananas. This happened first time he looks at this dead cop that was driving him to jail, I guess. Like his first time he looks at him and he's like a zombie. It's like, what are you? Is the first question he asks. What are you? It's like, well, it's a person.
Well, he assumes he's a zombie and yet does not know the word zombie.
No.
Because no one ever says zombie.
Well, and it's
walkers.
Like, why do you instantly assume they're not a human being anymore? I get that that's what movies want us to think.
No, but there are diseases of, like...
Yeah, amnesia.
You could get a neurological disease that makes you start flipping out people wouldn't be like, he's hollow inside, destroy the brain.
and I really like Lee the character, but like the setup of him is essentially that he's Tim Robbins from Shawshank Redemption, right?
Well,
like shot his
it
wife.
depends. I heard
lover,
I heard
right?
a recent conspiracy theory that there's clues in the movie that Tim Robbins is guilty in Shawshank, but I always assumed he's innocent.
Fair enough.
But Lee did it. Lee's not innocent, regardless.
The movie certainly implies that he didn't do it. Like they have that dialogue scene, like, wait, he's innocent? Like for real innocent?
Right.
You know?
I think the story's more explicit that he did it, but
that Lee did it?
No. Sorry, Shawshank, the short story it's based on. No. The comic. This is like a departure from the.
Yes.
Well, I didn't read all the way through the comic, but I
got all
don't
the way
believe
through
that these are. I know Glenn.
Negan.
Right, Glenn pops in and does a quick virtual cameo, but Lee is guilty of murder.
Oh, he is guilty.
Yeah. Because your only choice is whether to confess that to people or not. You don't have the choice of saying I didn't do it.
Oh, he does have the choice with the cop.
Oh, that's true. But I mean, throughout the game, it's really clear that he did
do it.
Yeah.
But it also seems like a crime of passion situation, right?
Yeah, he like killed a senator who his wife was cheating with.
Right. It's a weird setup.
I don't know if I would be like, kill your wife though, but I don't know if I should say that. No, I'm like, don't kill the. Or I
don't know what the right.
It almost seems sexist to kill the dude just because he's the dude, not kill the wife too. Look,
if you're gonna murder
please
for
add
infidelity,
me about this.
Yeah.
No.
I'd like to know who's the right murder, like just socially now. No, so he's 37 years old. He's a university professor.
Well, and I think they're trying to give you the idea that this is his redemption, is protecting one child in the zombie apocalypse.
Although I think it's fair to say that his crime is very morally gray.
Yes.
Like he's not a murderer, like overtly, you're a murderer.
I guess.
He's a vengeful lover.
Yes.
That's a crime that I think we all have some compassion for. I think we do. I think we all have a built-in compassion for it.
I have more compassion for like a revolutionary whose village was burned down or something. But
I think those are equivalent.
It's a scale.
But it's not. He's not OJ. You know what I mean? Like, well, see, OJ. I guess you could make the argument he's a vengeful lover.
I would make the
argument
argument that OJ allowed himself to take the rap to cover for his son, but that's a very different podcast.
What?
I think Jason Simpson did it.
Oh my god!
Personally,
we have to have a
this
long.
is a whole separate rap.
Wow!
I should probably go on Adam Todd Brown's conspiracy.
I want to hear that
about
big
that.
time. Okay, fair enough. So maybe that's the wrong example. He's not a serial killer. You know what I mean? Like somebody who,
No, they certainly want you to think he had a sin. It's a moderate sin.
It's
and
an understandable.
By the end of the story, he redeems himself by doing the things you do in the story.
Yeah, but the other details that are sort of pertinent to this and are interesting is he's a university professor, right? Who I guess you could follow his case on TV. So this is the human being who immediately blasts his cop, assailant to death.
Zombie cop.
Yeah, zombie, because he ascertains in 10 seconds that this is not a human being anymore and blasts it to death with a shotgun. The next thing you do is ask the headless body, "Are you dead?" I'm just saying, because I just replayed this and it was like, this is a very strange thing I'm now supposed to believe about this man. I don't understand. Is he brilliant? Is he
the show does
insane?
the same thing though, and I would argue the comic book kind of does the same thing. They dispense with it really quickly. The thing you're experiencing knows it's a zombie thing, and it doesn't care about. It knows you know that.
Right. So move on.
Fuck it.
Yeah. So move on. Let's just jump
definitely.
the hurdle and not make them have to learn after a while.
What do you?
It's just hard to buy it a little bit.
I could see that.
It was for me.
Yeah, but at the same time, I see so many 3-act comedies where the first act is similarly like, look, we know it's bad exposition.
Sure.
We know it's bad exposition, but you don't care because the
You
last
want
act
jokes.
is funny,
Yeah.
so you won't remember this part.
That's true.
And you'll know all the things.
The other, just very quickly, the other dumb thing about zombie apocalypses that immediately occurred to me is how fast people rot. In these, people who become zombies, they're missing noses and jaws within days.
Well, I assume those
of
were
this.
bitten off when they turned.
By what?
The zombies that bit them and made them turn. Although the rule in
All
Walking
right.
Dead is anyone who dies of any reason comes back as a zombie.
Yeah, I think the rules are always a little murky with zombies because like they can also eat you to death.
What about animals? What about you die, a coyote comes, nibbles on your nose,
Yeah, that
and then
makes
you
sense.
come back as a zombie?
If it's all coyote death, like this is all coyote rot, basically.
Yeah.
This is like the haven that first week for coyotes.
Yeah. Well, the
Okay.
show got a lot of credit for aging the zombie rot in real time. Like by season 6, they're way more rotted than season 2
As
or
they
whatever.
should be.
I suppose.
I just think it's a little weird that like Lee is stumbling out of this.
The zombie rules can be whatever you want, though.
Of course
I
they
don't
can,
know. Yeah.
and it's fine. I'm just saying like I'm a human being with some logic.
Yeah.
And it's strange to me that we're having a corpse who's probably 6 months decayed after
Right.
this apocalypse happened 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know?
that's true.
It's like magic.
He came from the morgue, dude. He
Yeah,
was
maybe
burned
that's it.
badly.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I should have supplied all this backstory.
Well, there's one of those reboots of like, I think Night of the Living Dead. I forget which one. But one of the more recent ones, the opening sequence is like ballerinas and clown zombies because it was like a costume rental where it's like, yeah, if you were in the right place, you would see some wacky zombies at
Why not?
first. You know?
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of zombie relationships, does
Which we rarely do.
Anoxunamun and Amenhotep count, or are mummies different than zombies?
I don't think mummies and zombies are the same. I think
Okay.
because mummies are overtly supernatural.
But in the movie
right?
The Mummy, like, he's just a mummy wearing bandages. If you look under, he
But
looks
he's
like a fucking zombie.
becoming more human with each piece, right?
Zombies can't do that. You're right.
No.
And he's conscious like he had a human.
Yeah,
life.
zombies can't have curses.
Unless someone made a zombie where they're like,
and he's
you know
conscious.
what's refreshing about this zombie movie? They have curses. That's the thing. Zombies.
We revitalized this franchise.
Zombies can go fucking anywhere. Fido, the one where the kid has a zombie as a pet.
If all that makes a thing a zombie is that it's undead, that it was dead and comes back.
And that it is of animal intelligence and craves eating flesh.
Well, the mummy is not of animal intelligence.
and he doesn't crave eating flesh.
no, he
just-
craves power.
Yeah.
He craves
He
power
just
and
wants
vengeance.
souls.
Yeah.
Did you ever do choose your own adventure books? Did you ever have a period where you
in
cared
fact.
about them?
There's about 6 months. It was like over a summer where I read
That's
about
all?
10 of them.
Oh, I had like 8
I
years.
just thought they were the same.
I thought they were so cool.
They
Did
were
it blow
cool.
your mind at the time? I also think kids don't do them today, and I guess it's because video games exist, but man, I'm surprised they're not more popular still. They were neat.
I think they're expensive to
Vamp
make.
for a minute. I'm going to get one.
That's okay. I think they're really expensive to make because, especially in the formats that we enjoy entertainment now, which is mostly video stuff, you have to make so much more script and visual content for all the choices to branch out that it's not the same as, like, say, I'm going to make a video game or I'm going to make a movie, because you have to make both the movie and then 10 or 15 other movie options.
Yeah.
That's a lot, you know?
So I show you here Sword of the Samurai by Steve Jackson.
He does have it.
It still
it's
has
torn to shit.
the library tag and the name of my elementary school. I stole this from school when I was 7 because I had played through it so many times and I was going to graduate, and I was like, I want this
And that was
book.
when the curse began.
Check it out. It's a choose your own adventure book that you also roll D&D traits in the beginning. And
It's
as
like it
you
was
get-
made for you.
It's like you fight this thing, roll to determine what page to turn to, or make a decision.
This is
depending
your
on the-
Jumanji
Ooh.
right here.
Yeah, Steve Jackson, who
Yeah.
also created Munchkins later, famously.
I mean, I'm going to actually look at this.
Yeah, please do. Be gentle with it because it's ready to disintegrate into ashes. But yeah, so I have an abiding love of choose your own adventure books and D&D, which I do think the ethos behind sort of developed into the point and click adventure games, which in turn developed into Telltale games. And I wonder what's next for that. And by that, I mean games, which are by definition interactive art, where the emphasis is more on the art and less on the interactive. Because we usually get is tipped the other way.
Well, I can tell you that I know that there are a lot of companies right now who are investing in interactive storytelling. That's happening right now. Like there are
Sure.
a lot of companies, especially on the internet, that are making interactive, choice-driven.
Well, and there's
narrative
been
stuff.
those manga-based dating games forever, but that's just not the story I wanted.
But we're about to get something that's a lot closer to movies, the movie version of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're gonna try it the way that we tried 3D. And maybe it'll stick, and maybe it'll be a genre of things.
Right.
You know?
So
I don't know.
I given the vagaries of life and the market, I don't even necessarily think you can say there's no place for that because Telltale failed and that means this. But maybe people don't want it packaged around option comic book properties. I don't know. Telltale did something very interesting, which was specifically model themselves after not only bringing this genre to life, but also being the comic book developer of video game developers, which is very interesting. That. I like both elements. I wonder which did them in, if either.
I still believe that they should have basically made comic book adaptations. Like more than they should have done Game of Thrones, Tales from the Borderlands, Batman.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think they were trying. Yeah. That's the only one that's a comic book adaptation that I still found boring.
They could have done Sandman. They could have done... maybe that's the wrong thing, but...
No, it's
I
always
would
the
have
right
loved
thing.
that. But
I just found out Neil Gaiman's a dedicated Scientologist, and I'm very upset.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's real bad, right?
I am really bummed to hear that.
It seems incompatible with his ability to be so imaginative and creative. Not that Scientologists can't be those things, but how can he not see that Xenu is equally made up imagination? You know?
It's
I don't know.
at least equally.
Yeah, at least equally fanciful as
anything else.
I am the embodiment of balance in the nether realms. Yeah.
After that South Park episode, it's so hard to ever take.
Well, I loved the in
Xenu,
Going Clear, my
seriously.
favorite part was Paul Haggis, who wrote Crash, as well as a lot of movies I like, In the Valley of the Law. I think he's a talented screenwriter. He gets a lot of flack for having written Crash. But there's a great quote or interview with him in Going Clear where a lot of people, that's how it works. It's a sunk cost. You've already invested $500,000, and then they tell you the Xenu stuff, and your brain immediately works to try and get you to believe it because you've invested so much.
Right.
But for some people, it does just snap it, which I was wondering. And he was like, yeah. So I was like $175,000 in, and they slide the thing over, and I read it. And my first thought is, I wasted so much time and money. This was fucking stupid. God damn it. Like, he immediately just knew this is all stupid. He's lucky. He's lucky that it even was that quick.
I don't know.
Free John Travolta.
It's hard. I don't know. Maybe everybody feels this way about everybody else's religion, but that just seems very baffling to me.
All right, let's not get into that.
Sorry.
I would not deign to call Scientology a religion, but that's my own separate thing.
Fair enough. I don't want to get into that.
No,
either.
they cheat. Listen to Behind the Bastards. They fucking lied, cheated, and blackmailed in order to get called a religion.
Right.
Anyway,
it's for money and taxes. All good. In any case, they could have done the Sandman. God, I'm really gonna be sad about this fact. They could do. Yeah, I mean, I can name a bunch of comic books that would be cool.
Yeah, don't. I'm not that'll gonna be boring.
But don't. That's
Mouse.
boring. Yeah, Lucifer. Yeah, sure. Here's comic books I know. But anyways, but that would be a cool way to highlight those properties for gamers, and not to try to like milk off like these other existing things that we already have versions of that we
great
like.
Squeezy gesture for milk off. He's like milking the game franchise.
It was a reverse chef kissing fingers thing.
I agree, and I think even though Telltale didn't hit a home run with it, that's what I mean. Is like some company will capitalize on this, and I think Marvel's Spider-Man game might be a hint at that coming from Marvel, because another thing that's happening in the marketplace at this time is Marvel/Disney, which saddens me, but Marvel properties and Marvel brain space are dominant, and yet
they sure are.
The sales of Marvel comic books are still down and declining. Like, people still don't. All the people who will go to the new X-Men movie when Marvel finally has X-Men back and makes the Marvel's X-Men, and Spider-Man gets to be in it, they're not going out and buying X-Men comics. So,
but are they buying video games? And
yes, they are. I feel like, and Marvel's Spider-Man was a solid game, which we'll cover, but also it's notable that the DLCs were released and modeled after comic book releases. And I just think, well, if anyone's going to do it, Marvel should be able to. Why are they giving up this giant piece of the pie? So
maybe it's like the Alien franchise, where Marvel's first form was that face raping spider monster.
All right.
You know?
Okay.
Wait.
Spoiler
That's
alert.
what comic books were. Oh, spoilers. I'm so sorry. Like, the comic books are basically the face raping egg laying thing, and now they're into movies where they're the full alien. You know,
But how-
they don't go backwards.
For the metaphor to work, it has to come out of us.
Yeah, in our purchases, or
I
don't know.
guess.
I don't know.
All
Just,
right.
fill it in.
But yeah,
With this imagination.
I
you
think
have.
Telltale might have cornered a market and then lost the corner on a market that will become an important market, which is
Yeah, sure.
games probably eventually, literally based on all the Marvel properties, released as choose your own adventure comic book type games.
Well, if
think that'll
nothing
be
else,
cool.
just new IPs and comic books.
I'd rather see more
You know.
obscure graphic novels, but that's just my taste in comic
The
books.
same.
Oh my God.
We're pretty far
Scud the
afoot again.
Disposable Assassin,
Oh,
my
you
favorite
love it.
graphic novel, has only had one video game adaptation. It was for the Sega Saturn, and it blew, and I would love to see that
Well,
redone.
see, that's the thing is, again, I do think Telltale's a good spot, like that genre of game is a good spot for unusual storytelling. Like Transmetropolitan could never be a cool game, except for maybe be a cool, Telltale game.
I was going to say, Warren Ellis could write the shit out of a Telltale script.
That might be
though, yeah.
interesting. You know, like I could see that, and on and on. So I don't know. It's a shame that right now this is a vacant landscape.
Right.
And like there isn't anybody to fill it in. And I think it's because they tried to get too big.
Yeah.
I think this is these developers need to be like, I just kind of want to make a game in this genre that's only going to make some money.
How come
Just a
Netflix
little
can
money.
do that?
Because-
Infinite expansion
Well,
with all the money.
I mean, and maybe the solution is that eventually it's got to be Activision or some shit. Like
Well, I'm
Activision's
telling
like,
you,
I can milk $100,000
Marvel
out
Game
of this.
Studios is going to, I think, start cornering this market.
Maybe.
Which will diminish the number of more obscure comics that get adapted, and that makes me sad, if that's indeed a true prediction. We'd be remiss to not talk about that ending.
Yeah.
Everyone, when we posted we were going to cover this, everyone,
The ending.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what it comes down to, even more than the interactivity, because I know a lot of people, and this is a factor, but I don't think it's as present as you think. Because as you said, the interactivity is more conversational decisions.
It's just getting you from scene to scene.
I really like that at the end of the game, it tells you how your decisions rank with everyone who's ever
That's
played
an
the game.
amazing thing about this.
Amazing feature.
I love that. It's huge.
Especially when you get one where you're like, only 8% of people shot Duck in the kneecaps. I did.
Yeah.
What's wrong
What the
with
hell's
me?
wrong with me?
Yeah.
Where do I find that forum online?
And then also a big thing it revealed that I never knew on my second playthrough was by the time you get to the end of chapter 5, I've always had like just Lee or Lee and one or two other people. You can have anywhere from no one alive except Lee to everyone. You can keep everyone alive. And I was like, no, you can't. I have never found that tree
I never
where
tried
no
it
one
either.
dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there are some deaths, but you can keep like 7. Like the party can be 7 strong. At the
See,
end.
I am not interested in keeping them all alive.
I'm
I should be. But
I'm
I'm not.
interested in genuinely role playing what I would do in the
Yeah,
situation and
exactly.
seeing what the game says the consequences would
Yeah.
be. It's more like a Cosmo quiz
Yes.
or a BuzzFeed quiz than I want to admit.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's everything that's good about it.
Because it's great to know what
Yeah.
how you compare to, but yeah. So I think more than the interactivity, because there are games where the fact that I'm heavily interacting makes me identify with the protagonist. This isn't that. I think it's purely that what you're modeling, and it's the same trick as Last of Us, is a parenting relationship.
Definitely.
In The Last of Us, which I actually find a more challenging, sophisticated choice for an ending, is the relationship becomes murky and complicated.
But
and
you
that's
also
the end.
don't make a choice in Last of Us.
No,
you
that's
just see
true.
a choice.
But I would say the ending of this, the reason I'm like was sobbing and
Yeah. Yeah.
is because at the end you make a choice that perfectly exemplifies what The Walking Dead and all zombie things are about, which is that you are The Walking Dead, you're gonna die. Yes, I know that's dumb, but I've never seen it skinned in such an innovative way, which is at the end of the game, you're gonna die no matter what. But you get the choice among several different dialogue options to give Clementine, the child you've been caring for the whole time, advice on how to live her future. And at the time playing that, I did not know there would be a part 2, like when I first played this, right? If you consider it as a self-contained piece of art, it's so fucking beautiful
It really
and
is.
subversive, because it's like, well, why would a choose your own adventure choice matter? The credits are about to roll. it matters if you care about Clem's future. But Clem's future isn't real, but it is in this story. How invested have we gotten you? It's literally like they put it all on the table. You either care about Clem just for her own sake as a character, because you know this choice is not going to matter, or you don't. And I fucking did very much care to give Clem good advice.
I've never met a single person, and I've talked to a lot of people about this game, who didn't care. It really works.
Who was like, well, I got bit, who gives a shit?
Or who just wasn't that into this. If they got to episode 5, you love this game. Like, that's what's so crazy about it. It's like, nobody's like, that game sucks. You know, they're like, no, man, it was brutal.
And the imagery
and it sticks with you.
It also has a stronger post-credits scene than most Marvel things.
It does.
Because she sees 2 silhouettes. You don't know if they're zombies or humans.
Right.
And you know it cuts to black, but you assume the implication is she's going to make the choice based on the advice you just gave her. I hope you gave her the right advice. And you're like, oh! Yeah.
What'd you tell her to do? Do you remember the choices?
The first time I ever played through, I told her to stay away from the cities and not trust humans.
I did the
because
same.
I believe that the truisms, I don't know that this is true about life. I think the cracked article that our compatriot Jason Parjan wrote is correct. One of the reasons zombie outbreaks are silly is people would cooperate. We see this in hurricanes and wildfires, and if we cooperated, we do really, really well. Like, it wouldn't last that long. We would clamp down on that shit, and we would be able to. And there would be some looting and riots and desperate people, but it would not be giant enclaves of people seceding from the government and stealing tanks.
Of course,
we would
not.
cooperate.
That's what
with
makes
one
this
another
a fantasy. I just putting it out there. I am interested in a movie where zombies are an inconvenience.
Sure.
But not the only defining thing.
I believe there's got to be a sitcom or at least a web series that is that. But, because they're the pure glut of zombie stuff. But unlike that, I would say I was operating within the rules of the zombie genre, which is that humans are more dangerous than zombies.
Correct.
So the right answer is don't trust people, get away from the cities.
To be.
Yeah.
It's like no matter what choice you make, somebody turns into a villain and you have to kill them. You have to.
Or some shit.
Vampires and zombies are rarely in the same narrative together.
Or it's Pride and Prejudice and zombies, and you already got the undead. Now you have to deal with social strata and awkwardness.
And letters, just reading long correspondence.
Lord Witherball is coming for your debutante fucking quinceañera shit, and you gotta
no thanks.
Strap your whalebone,
corset
thing on. Yeah,
I wanted you to keep going.
Well, I knew the word corset. I was trying to summon a word that would be a funnier thing
word
to
than corset.
Yeah. I was trying to get wrong, but close enough that I was. Yeah,
a classic comedy misplay.
I was too stupid to do a bit where I pretend to be stupid.
Start the clock. Stop the clock.
Pass the checkpoint. It's time for keep or delete.
Wow. Seems like it went fast today.
Well, we paused a lot
for
you to sneeze and eat chips.
Well, I was satisfied with all those things. What do you think? You gonna keep it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I keep anything that makes me cry, and I gather it close to me so I can be as sad as I can be. That's what life is about.
I don't think I'm gonna keep this.
Oh, no.
I know.
Clem.
I know.
What's gonna happen to Clem?
You know what? I didn't really make this point in the larger section, but like, I actually think that if they had stopped at 1, I would care more about this than I do. I think that the fact that it goes on is exactly the problem with Walking Dead, is that like Walking Dead needs to be just contained. It's never been contained.
They got to make money, and 2, 3. I haven't played 4
sympathetic.
yet, but they're well done enough that I was like, I also enjoyed doing that. That was as good, much better than a lot of movie sequels, and yet the ending of 1 is so powerful.
It's very good
that I could have just been that, and it would be better. I agree.
I think that's why. Like, I don't think that we should be keeping like 3 Telltale games. I just don't.
I also have a hard time caring as much about simply because Clem is a child. I don't care as much about the like 19-year-old minor league baseball guy that becomes the main character.
I didn't care about him that much either. I did like his.
But Clem is back in 4, baby.
And she's the main character, and she's caring for this child.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Well, I hope that doesn't mean it's just the same.
That's what I'm worried about. I haven't played it yet. I think that this game is not my favorite of the Telltales It's not as emotionally rich to me as Wolf Among Us, which maybe we should actually cover. And I think there are other point and clicks I would want to keep.
Well, if Paul pays us, we'll cover it.
Fair enough. Yes, if
We
Portos
got you,
pays,
Paul.
yeah, or Portos.
Or if we get
If
sponsored
Portos
by
finally
Portos
flies
plantain
in
chips.
with the perfect pastry.
Portos perfect pastries.
Yeah, I would keep Wolf Among Us before I would keep this. I do believe that making a bunch of sequels does diminish the original. I've thought a lot about this because it's a fucking plague in our times.
And zombie things are what they are, and the genre only has a certain amount of legs, whereas I would argue, if you've read Fables, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason you can have a big fat book of 20 fables, and there's a reason Fables can repeat and has more legs.
And they still didn't. They still only made one.
Which is weird because
It was amazing. Why not?
like noir is not, if you've read the comics, Fables changes genre based on
All
the
the time.
character you're following that
Yes.
time. So it was only noir because Bigby Wolf was the main character.
Right.
They could cut to the farm and have another main character and it would be
No problem.
an adventure comedy. So
They could do,
Fables could have gone so long.
They could have done a Jane Austen novel out of several of the
But Sandman could
female
also
leads.
be. Man, Sandman is now going to be stuck in my head as the Telltale game that should have been made.
Can you imagine? But I don't know. The decision tree for Dream is interesting. Anyway, so no, I don't keep this game for that. I think the sequels alone made it so I couldn't keep it. Sorry,
Paul.
Sorry, Paul. Yeah,
On your game.
yeah. If you pay slightly more money, you can change
Hey,
my opinion.
I kept it because I know where my bread is buttered. Mr. Zarowski's the name on my checks.
Yeah,
What's your name? Plantain Boy.
the old sneezing plant. I don't know.
All right. I think that's it for 1Upsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Stop the timer.
Work complete.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you.